Unveiling, and we ask all others to remain seated for a few moments. Our 6 youngsters will now enter with memorial candles. Gave their lives on this occasion, the sanctification of his name. Kindly rise and observe active silence. The names are Lopez, David Bass, Daniel Hamburger, Avi Levy, Gershom Wisselsheimer, and Nathan Ross. Daily await his appearance. These were the words said by so many before their death in the concentration camps. The Animamin will now be chanted by cantors Levy and Weiss. The rabbis, dignitaries, the city and state of New York, representatives of neighborhood congregations, members, guests, friends. Tonight is the night of the 16th of Marcheshvan. 50 years ago, on November 9th, 1938, tens of thousands of Jews were arrested and hauled to concentration camps. Nearly 200 synagogues in Germany were set ablaze, many others demolished. Jewish homes and stores were destroyed. It was the night of the broken glass and shattered windows, thus called Kristallnacht. It was the black night of barbarism. As we know now, this was merely the beginning of a well-devised plan which called for the annihilation of German and European Jewry. After Germany had surrendered to the Allies in 1945, we became slowly aware of the magnitude of this cataclysm which had occurred during the war years. Ours is the oldest immigrant congregation in our time, originally known as Gates of Hope. Founded in 1935 in memory of the parish Jewish congregations of Europe. Till this day, this synagogue bears visible signs of the happenings over 45 years ago. Before entering the sanctuary, we find on its western wall a stone saved from the ruins of the synagogue in Würzburg, Germany. Our walls here, left and right, bear the names of many who lost their lives during the Holocaust. And today, we have added an impressive monument donated by Ambassador Ronald Lauder, who is with us here this afternoon. Its purpose, too, is to be constantly reminded of the horrible events in our time. We are deeply grateful to him for this outstanding work of art placed in our building. Great credit also goes to the very talented sculptor, Mr. Barry Silverman, who masterfully designed and sculptured this monument. He modeled it after a photography which he found of the burning synagogue in the once Jewish congregation of Baden-Baden in southern Germany. It is made of Jerusalem marble and black granite. It bears an inscription from a prayer which we recite once a year on the day of Tisha B'Av, the day our holy temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. Wo eish hitzato, uvo eish ato osit libnoso. You consumed her with fire, and with fire you will in the future restore her. May this monument serve us not only not to forget, but also to strengthen our emunah, to strengthen our belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Almighty God, to be thankful to Him that we were able to live and witness how out of utter destruction, the smoldering synagogues, from the ashes of the altars on which we have sacrificed so much, emerged new life. From enslavement and darkness became a new beacon of light. May this light increase and shine until we reach the day of the ultimate redemption soon in our time. Amen. It is now my privilege to call upon the spiritual leader of our kehillah, of our congregation, Rav Avram Gross.
Ambassador Lauder, Mironan Verabonan, rabbis and dignitaries, elected officials, representative of our people, on this eve of the 16th of Mar Cheshvan, which you just heard from our administrator, Reverend Hess, that annually in our synagogue has been a day in which we light the candles in memory of the tremendous amount of destruction that so-called civilized world had perpetrated upon us. It is difficult, standing before 6 lamps. Mind you, when a person lights one candle in memory of a departed, loved and dear one, can you imagine, visualize each candle to represent a million? A million? Heartbreaking. When I think back of this night, to many of you I don't have to tell. Many of you were there. Many of you will lift up your hands and show me the inscription engraved in numbers. Many of us who recall our own families who perished. When we think of this night of over 200 synagogues razed, some 800 businesses smashed, hundreds of homes devastated, in addition to human lives, we stand with broken hearts and we say, Kristallnacht, what lesson should we learn 50 years later? What should we take with us when we celebrate 50 years of an infamous night? And as a teacher of Torah, I always go to our Torah to learn the lessons of the day. Where do we find in our Holy Scriptures the origin of a Kristallnacht? And I want to share with you this thought. Our Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, mind you, in Babylon, after the destruction of the temple, exiled of the Jewish people, the Talmud tells us of 2 incidents where people celebrated a marriage, occassion, a joyous occasion, and people were very merry. There were a lot of rabbis present. and they were in a very gay and joyous mood. And the father of the groom noticed the tremendous amount of gaiety, and he said, exile, destruction, so much laughter. He took a crystal, which the Talmud says at that time was worth 400 zuz, 400 zuzim, and he took it and smashed it. And there was the glass shattered on the ground. And you know what happened? Silence prevailed. Second incident, similar, where the father of the groom took a white crystal cup and again shattered it on the ground and made broken glass. Silence. Seriousness. I said to myself, what did this silence mean? What did the silence at that time mean, and what does silence mean today? I believe that there are three kinds of silence. There is a silence of acquiescence. In Torah terminology, in halachic words, we have shtika kahodaya damye. When you're silent, you're involved in a business deal. I make an offer, and you keep quiet. It is significant that you agree. You acquiesce. We know the story that brought about the destruction of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the Beis Hamikdash, the famous story of Kansa Bar Kansa, where our sages tell us that the main reason was Kivan the Shoskerabanan, because the leaders were silent. Shmamino Denichale, it is an indication that they agree with it. So silence is a way of acquiescence, agreement. There's a second silence, and that is the silence of complacency, where a person hears, sees, aware of certain incidents, and business is as usual. It doesn't concern me. It doesn't affect me. I'm not moved by it. It didn't touch me. The silence of complacency. And thirdly, there is a silence of meditation. A silence of reflection. I'll only bring to you two incidents. One is, the Torah tells us, two sons of Aaron, Aaron the brother of Moshe, in a time when they went to serve the Lord, they died. Could you imagine a father losing two sons? What is the reaction of that father? The Torah says, Vayidom Aharon. Aharon was silent. Was he acquiescing to this? Heaven forbid! Was the father complacent? Heaven forbid! A father loses a child. Could you think of a greater tragedy? It was a silence of meditation, reflection. What went wrong? What could we do? Open up to the first chapter of Shmuel. There's a mother, the mother of Samuel, the mother of the prophet who anointed two kings of Israel. Hannah, barren, childless, praying for children. And how does she pray? Raksif soiseho nois, v'koilo lo yishomea. Only her lips were moving, but no sound. What did this mean? Silent prayer. Where did we learn the halacha of a quiet Shmoneh Esrei? The quiet Shmoneh Esrei was learned from our mother Chana. So there's a silence of prayer, the tefillah b'lachash, the silent prayer of meditation. And so, my dear friends, I think back of Kristallnacht. I think back 50 years ago, when all these tragedies and crimes were perpetrated against mankind. What was the reaction of the Nazi policemen? What was the reaction of Adolf Hitler, Goebbels, Himmler, and all the Rishoyim? They stood by, looked, did nothing, because they acquiesced. They agreed. In their quietness and in their silence, they were at a party and answering to the crimes. But let's take a look at world reaction. What was the reaction of the world? A few days after Kristallnacht, there was a press conference of the President of the United States. 200 reporters came because they were certain there's going to be a great statement. He sat down, you remember, with the long cigarette holder, and he said, something terrible happened in Germany and in Austria. It's terrible, but what can we do? And when one reporter said to him, perhaps we ought to change the immigration laws to allow people to come to these shores, the answer was, no change. I think of 3 whales in Alaska. Beautiful whales, trapped in an ice. Russia, America, everybody, cranes, big equipment being sent. Of course, whales are beings. Creatures have to be saved. Sure, break the ice if necessary. What about the people who were in the boxcars and in the trains? What was the world reaction? Silence of complacency. It's not I. But let me not accuse the world. Let's talk about Jewish organizations. What was the reaction of Jewish organizations? I was a young child here. Don't rock the boat. Don't make any protests. Silence. A silence of complacency. I'm well aware that the silence of complacency sometimes is out of fear to say the wrong thing or to hurt. But it's complacent. It's do nothing. It's really business went on as usual. People went to their affairs. But then there was a time when we have to reflect. We can't talk. We're choked with emotions. Recognizing what took place, conscious of our losses. What do? We reflect. And I'm going to reflect with you. And believe me, I've cut half my speech because of time. Look at it today. 50 years after the Holocaust. 50 years after Kristallnacht. What has happened? Look how many times you have violence and crime and the policeman stood by and did nothing. There are times, we won't admit it, but the silence is acquiescence. And then there is a silence in our own time. Hurricanes have come. People have been subjected to all kinds of misery, all problems that are facing us. It's not my business. Go on. It doesn't affect me. Not my thing. It is a feeling. A feeling of complacency. And therefore we have to meditate. And therefore we have to say, Manomar Umanedaber, what should we say? Elie Wiesel, the Nobel Prize winner, survivor of the Holocaust, said, when I witnessed the end of the Holocaust, I was certain it would never happen again. I was certain that the world learned the lesson, that everybody would see and know and hear and be aware that never again will such tragedies happen. But as the years went by, he found that he has to even fight to tell people that the Holocaust was a reality. And we have to make it ever evident that people who are complacent and people who thought it would never happen again and people who thought that Deutschland über alles, who thought that in my national country for which I carry the stars and the rewards with bravery, it will never happen among my friends. And throughout history we have learned the lesson that it can happen again unless we're aware. And that is why we are so grateful to you, Ambassador Ronald S. Lauder, and to your staff, to Frank Rees, to Sharon Zellinger, to all who had a hand in not only the most impressive memorial and monument that was put up in our synagogue, but for awakening the conscience of the world. If today in every school, almost every school, children are being taught about Kristallnacht, and in every paper, in every media, there is this message, we have this man to be thankful for. And if I may tell you, we refer to you as the former ambassador of Austria. Tonight I want to tell you, you are the ambassador of the martyrs, the ambassador of the conscience of civilized man to bring this message to the world. You are the ambassador of people whom you told me months ago. You were shocked how few people knew about this affair, how few people knew that there was a Kristallnacht. And therefore, these children who carry the lights, they will remember this all their lives. And they'll be able to tell their children and grandchildren in years to come, you know that in 1988, I brought in a light to represent 1,000,000 Jews, 1,000,000 Jews. And let us finally remember that the acts of Kristallnacht were not only against Jews, but what Jews stand for, against Torah and our house of worship. Whoever heard destroying house of worship? Even in war, houses of worship were a sanctuary, and yet they were smashed and broken because this was a battle against the values of God's teaching. Let us take this message let us reflect. We're choked. We're touched. We certainly don't acquiesce. We're coming here, we're not complacent. But let us reflect. What can I do? How can I live? How can I conduct myself so that Kristallnacht will not be a night of broken glass, but a night in which the flames of Torah, the flames of Jewish values, the flames of God's teaching will permeate in every aspect and sphere of our homes. Every Jewish child is a negation of Judenrein. And every teaching of Torah is a defeat to the hands of those who brought about this Kristallnacht. In the memory of the martyrs, Kedoshim Tahor, perished on the blood-stained continent of Europe. Land, earth, do not cover their blood. But let us remember. Let their souls in the heavenly abode pray that the day will come when nations will not lift up sword against sword. When swords will come plowshares. And when we can live in peace, harmony among all of fellow mankind with the rebuilding of the Holy Temple and the return to Zion and Jerusalem